Last time I forgot, and we had to start over because I forgot to turn camera 1 on.
For real.
But I don't think that's our problem this morning. We had Beetlejuice, the Predator, up in here. We had to get rid of him before this podcast because I don't think I've ever seen a wasp like that. That thing looked crazy.
Right?
It was so scary.
Do you think it was a wasp or do you think it was a beetle?
It was
like
Beetlejuice.
Or like a yellow jacket or something.
Do you think they would like sting you?
Oh, yeah. It had a big old stinger on it.
Straight out of Alien versus Predator. That's what it looked like.
But it looked like when it was flying, it looked like a firefly. It looked like it had like blue, like it was pretty.
A firefly?
Yes.
It looked like it was about to sting us and take us out this world. That's what it looked like.
It's ready to mutate us.
That thing had COVID-52 on its stinger.
Honestly, though, how funny would it be if we got it on the podcast? All of us would be like,
I think the thing about it, though, I mean, like on camera, it would look so small, and people would be like, "Oh, that's just a little fly." You know what I mean?
Huge. It was like
right.
It was big,
massive.
But that's something that would go viral on on TikTok.
What you
Sorry.
talking about? It's the People Being People podcast.
Yeah, if you think I'm not about to drop the F-bomb or two, you're wrong.
You're like, hey.
You're still like,
It is what it is.
But that's the thing about this. Yeah, that's the thing about this podcast is it's just us sitting down having a conversation, talking. We just people being people.
Yes. Welcome,
that's what it's all about. Welcome, everyone. It's Monday.
Yes, it is Monday.
What? Mona is saying the intro this morning? I heard you
tried to. Well, I was confident right now.
Well, go ahead. Say the intro this morning if you're feeling
guys.
good.
Welcome to the People Being People podcast with Mona and Tyler and Mona. Woo! This is a podcast where we talk real life situations. And, hey, we're just being people on this podcast.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone.
That's what it's all about. Let's get into it. I hope you guys, Monday is going great so far. I'm ready for this because we got a special friend on the podcast today, and we're going to get into some good talks and stuff and hear a little bit about her. But, yeah, let's make this Monday great, everyone. Get out there and make it a great week. People being people. You know, self-love isn't an easy journey.
Especially when you came from a really broken place inside of you.
It's an everyday choice. All right, like I was saying, now that we got Beetlejuice, the Predator, up out of here, we can introduce the one and only Eden White.
Woo!
Yes.
Welcome. Well, hello, beautiful.
Hi.
How are you feeling this morning?
Tired, but we're thriving.
Well, hey, you did say that you were in like I was about to say a whole nother state, but no, a whole nother city that was like 3 hours away from here.
3 hours there and back.
She was in the Dean last night, if anyone knows who's familiar with the
good
Dean.
old Dean.
Yeah. For real. But okay, hello.
Hello.
Let's get into it. First, okay, who is Eden White? Who are you? Just do a short biography of who you are.
I am 24.
Awesome.
Born and raised in Sioux Falls. Got 2 kids, a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Yay.
Yeah.
I am an entrepreneur, I guess you could call me that.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I got right now.
That's it. Okay. Hey,
that's
it's okay.
the short and sweet. I don't know.
It's okay.
We're going to get into it. So, like, I have a question for you. My first question would be, what was it like growing up in Sioux Falls for you? I'd love to hear your perspective because I think that this city, it's an awesome city. Mm-hmm. You know, me being from Chicago, I love living here. Yeah. Very community oriented.
For sure.
The people here are great. A lot of opportunities here for entrepreneurs and people that are starting a business. Yeah. So I would love to hear a little bit of that. I think that Sioux Falls, South Dakota needs more credit, you know?
Yeah.
Sioux Falls, South Dakota needs to be recognized among the other 50 states or the big cities like Chicago, New York, LA, because there's a lot of cool people like Eden White here in this city. So
so neither of my parents are actually from here.
Okay.
My mom's family is all in Alaska.
Oh, wow. Alaska?
Yeah, and then my mom's my grandma and her husband at the time were in the military, so they moved around. And then my dad's family is all in Iowa, which is close.
So, yeah.
I don't really know how either of them ended up here, but they both ended up here.
Right.
Growing up, I don't know. I feel like I had like a really like relatively normal childhood.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My parents did divorce when I was younger, and then again, my mom and my stepdad divorced, but I was co-parented like between everybody my whole life.
Okay, so you were even co-parented by like your step parents.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So my mom and my stepdad had one kid together.
Okay.
And he would go back and forth between my mom and my stepdad's house, so I went with him.
Okay.
And then I would spend time additionally with my dad outside of that. So.
Okay.
I see. Well, they say it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah, it really does.
It does.
And that has totally reflected like in my own co-parenting with my own like kids, and we could get into that, whatever. But
Yeah.
other than that, like I feel like my childhood was really normal. As an adult, I look back and I like can pick out the privilege of my life, but
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then
We'll
like
move
high
the mic
school.
a little closer.
Sorry,
Yeah.
man, I did that too.
Yeah, 'cause
And then high school, I started at Lincoln, and then I switched to New Tech.
New Tech. What's new?
High school. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
how was that? Okay, I want to get into that.
I haven't heard of that high
interesting.
school.
It's a little bit different.
Yeah. So New Tech, just to kind of get into it, is all project-based learning.
Okay.
Knowing what I know about myself now, I don't think that I would do it again.
Okay.
But I was really, really struggling my sophomore year, just with like finding my own identity, and like I skipped a lot of school.
Yeah.
My best friend was at New Tech, and my boyfriend at the time was at New Tech, and it just felt like the
home.
It just kind of felt like the natural choice. I didn't really feel like I had like that sense of security in my own friends at Lincoln. And then went to New Tech, which is all project based. So what they would do is like they would roll out something to you. So it was block classes, and you would have 2 to 3 classes in the in one class period. So you would have like 4 class periods throughout the day.
Oh wow.
And they would push a lot of content at you.
Okay.
But basically like they would roll out something, and sometimes your rollout was a movie, or sometimes your rollout was a big presentation or something along those lines. And then you would figure out what you need to know about that subject, and then they would tell you what format your presentation is going to be in.
Oh, wow.
And all of it was group work, and all of it was presentation based.
Wow.
And then you were graded on things like your work ethic and your professional dress for your presentation, and like the actual content piece of it was only like 10 or 15% of your grade.
Holy.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
they really, really like pushed like how to be an adult in this world.
Oh, wow.
Which was good, but I personally feel like I lost the knowledge piece of it a little bit. Because I was so focused on the rest of it. But that also is me knowing as an adult, like I was recently diagnosed with ADHD.
Okay.
And so knowing that about myself, I don't think that I would ever choose that route for myself again. Just because I know that I like to like learn something, get good at it, and move on. And it's like, okay, we're still talking about the same thing for a week at a time. I'm so bored.
And when you have ADHD, your brain is like,
you check out.
I need something.
It's like I'm looking for that dopamine, and it's not here.
Yeah, that's a superpower, though. You know what I mean?
Especially with entrepreneurship, I feel like that is a superpower.
My biggest blessing and my biggest curse.
I know, because you get distracted really easily. And
it's the best and the worst. All
yeah.
the time, but
I mean, like, what is that though? Because I feel like there can be a diagnosis for everything that goes on within the human mind. You know, the human mind is the human mind. And some people that I've spoke to that said that they were diagnosed with ADHD as a child are like some of the most gifted, talented people I know. You know, so I see it as a superpower.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and for sure it can be. So what ADHD is a lack of dopamine. So when you wake up in the morning, your brain has refilled on dopamine for the day. And it takes a certain amount of that dopamine to do each task and activity, but we get refills of it from praise. We get refills of it from fun activities, from scrolling on TikTok, from doing the nasty, like whatever it is that you do throughout your day, like you get those little hits of dopamine. Right? Well, people with ADHD wake up with less. And so we only have so much energy to spend on things like doing the dishes or brushing our teeth or taking a shower or organizing our closet. You know, I might get really hyper focused on organizing my closet, so I'll get really excited about it and I'll spend 3 hours on it.
Will you not finish it?
I'll never finish it, and then my energy is gone for the day, and that's it. Some people like to use like the spoon theory, right? And that can be used with like chronic illness too. So it's like I wake up in the morning with 3 spoons and I have to decide how I'm going to spend those 3 spoons. So am I going to do the dishes with 1, push out orders with 2, and then I have 1 more for my kids at the end of the night, you know? And so that is, I could do this all day long because I've actually done a lot of research on it, but where it comes in handy with entrepreneurship is that you kind of get that constant feedback.
Yes.
You get that constant dopamine kickback, and you get to take the pictures and see the likes, and you get to, you get to kind of do all of these high dopamine activities. And I, with my business, I get to order things in all the time, and that's fun. And I get to open packages and unbox them. And, all of those things are that constant dopamine hit. And then like pressing an order and packaging it, like that's exciting for me.
Yeah.
And so that is where it can be good, but running out of spoons too early in the day is when it can go really downhill really, really fast.
Yeah.
So
thank you for that knowledge. Like, I feel like a lot of people that do have ADHD, and like I actually got diagnosed at a very young age. I don't know nothing about it.
Right.
So you saying that, like,
all the pieces come together.
I'm like,
I think it's like that for a lot of people, because the way people view it, even in my own ignorance, like, thank you for sharing that with us. People view it as something like, oh, the person is just really hyperactive or can't focus.
So the way that ADHD used to be diagnosed was ADHD or ADD, right? So it was either hyperactive, which is like your little boys running around and jumping off things, and, and that's like the typical ADHD presentation, especially in kids. Where ADD, and now under like new guidelines or whatever, it's all just ADHD, and it kind of falls on a spectrum. Where it's either inattentive type or hyperactive type or combined type. I scored really high on both hyperactive and inattentive for my testing, and I would never ever call myself a hyperactive person. I don't run, I don't move. But it's things like
your brain, I bet.
But it's things like shaking my leg. It's things like never being able to she knows exactly. Her and I could do this all day, but I think that's why you and I, like, we get into those long conversations and we could just bounce off each other all day long. And Tyler's like, I did not have the energy for you too.
Yo, living with this woman, I love you.
Man, I gotta live with myself. I know.
It's like I'm not going down that route. But what I'm saying is like, when you with your girlfriends, I'm just there like, yay. Hey, did y'all? Yep. Back and forth. Like, okay. I'll just be over here. I'll just be entertained by the conversation. Hi guys.
Well, and it's funny because, like, my brain, I feel like, just moves at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and for me, it was like I would have these conversations, and you would say something, and then all of a sudden I'd be like, oh my God, do you remember when we saw that turtle riding a bike? And you'd be like, how did you get from here? How did you get from A to B? And I'd be like, well, A reminded me of B, reminded me of C, reminded me of D. But instead of saying all those things out loud to you, I just jumped to the conclusion, and that was the first thing that came out of my mouth.
So
I have a question.
I got a question too. Can I?
Yes.
Right.
You go first.
This happens a lot. So we'll be like riding in the car, and she'll say something like, she'll just blurt out. We'll be quiet, just vibing. And she'll be like, yeah, we should get the blue one instead of the green one. And I'll be like,
that too?
What?
Yeah.
What blue? What are we talking about?
Catch me up. Right. Get me up to speed. Yeah.
Like, so
is that
do you do that?
Oh yeah, I do that all day long.
Okay. That's why.
Because my thoughts will say, oh, look at that tree. And then that tree will remind me of something green. And then that green thing, I'll be like, oh yeah, that shirt I had to order. And then like it will, but I won't say all of those thoughts out loud. Because if I say them all out loud, we'll be here all day. Right? But sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, Tyler needs to know this information. Yeah. So I'll be like, so the blue or the green one? And you'll be like, the blue or the green what?
Yes.
Okay, I got it now. Yeah. That's very helpful because like sometimes I feel like she think because I'm her significant other, she thinks I'm supposed to, be able to read her mind or know.
It's hard to regulate.
Yeah.
So
that's what I thought it was.
Do you feel like, so when you're going through those moments, do you feel like when you say, look at this green thing, do you feel like it's really draining though to like go back and so say someone's like, what are you talking about? And it's like your brain is just so,
and you're like, I've already moved on. I've moved on 6 more things from now.
To like go back, it's like
it's hard sometimes.
So I have a question. When you found out that you had ADHD, how did that make you feel?
It was actually really hard for me.
Okay.
Especially being diagnosed at such a late age. Like I said, I was just diagnosed in January of this year. So literally I'm only 6 months. 6 months in. And all of a sudden, all of the pieces of my whole life connected. And I was like, oh my God.
Yep.
And I had to go through like some really deep healing for a while because I was like, I was kind of like not maybe resentful, but like I was like, what would my life have been like if somebody figured this out when I was 12 even?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying that maybe I needed to be medicated my whole life, but like once you know it about yourself, you can kind of work with it and work with routines that like make sense to you. And when you like, Mona, I'll send you some stuff, but like when you find out all of the things that are related to it, you're like, dude, like life didn't have to be this hard for so long. And I feel like I work so much harder at everyday life than a lot of normal people do, and people don't understand. Like yesterday, I slept all day long.
Yes.
And I was just like so mentally drained and mentally exhausted, and it kind of just manifests itself like that sometimes. And you know, especially in owning a business and trying to like lean into that, like I feel like I'm never allowed to stop, which is a good thing when I want it to be. But then sometimes it's like go until I just like die for 3 days at a time.
So like, okay, you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You don't have any employees. You're by yourself, right?
Yeah.
Correct me if yeah.
I mean, I have a very part-time employee, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like you said, you're always on this go. And then it's like you hit this burnout, which people don't understand. Yeah. And you could burn out for a day or even 2 days, a week.
Yeah, because it's mental and emotional labor. It's not like my physical demands of my job are not that hard necessarily, but the mental that goes into it all just really, really drains me. And I am on medication, and I've kind of learned to like how to lean into that and like how to make that work for me. But it is definitely like a constant.
Could you maybe like give some tips out to the people that
have
it because you were even informing me, and I'm sure a lot of people it's like a relief.
You look like like say something. Go.
Knowing this, like having this self-awareness, I was going to say the same thing. Like having this self-awareness, how would you say that this has helped you, you know, in business and running a business and in personal life?
Yeah, it's helped me so much. It's helped me to kind of know when I'm dopamine chasing. And that's kind of a thing, especially right after you hit that burnout. You kind of wake up the next day and like the clouds clear and you're like, oh, we're going to the mall. We are having a good day. I'm back up on my bullshit. Like, I'm great. Yeah. And that is your brain saying, like, oh, we about to go get some dopamine now because we didn't have none of it yesterday. And, like, and so kind of, like, leaning into those cycles, but, like, maybe chasing dopamine in the appropriate ways because there are a lot of really self-destructive behaviors that can go into that, you know, and drinking can be part of it, caffeine can be part of it, sex can be part of it. Like, we don't want to get into it, but shopping, anything that's like those quick dopamine hits. Sometimes if I accidentally hyperfocus on TikTok, I'll spend 9 hours on TikTok. And I don't mean to, but TikTok is the best and the worst thing for people with ADHD because it is every 15 seconds you got something new. And so our brains love that because it's like constant engagement. But it's really hard to break that hyperfocus away from it to say, I have to do something else right now. ADHD is an executive function disorder. The same way that depression is, the same way that
anxiety?
Probably something else is. Anxiety is a little bit less executive function, but so like when you're depressed, right? Or if you have other executive function disorders, people who have a normal regulated executive function, right? They can say, I need to do the dishes today. And they'll get home from work and they'll stand in front of the sink and they'll do the dishes. I get home from work, I sit down on my couch and I'm like, I know I need to do the dishes. And I will sit here and I will think about every single dish that's in that sink and I will just play it over and over in my head. And I'm just like mentally exhausted about it to the point where I cannot physically make my body get up off the couch to go do the dishes. Right? And it is, especially like if you have a long to-do list or something along those lines, a lot of times like ADHD will kind of make you like get stuck. And you'll like be in this place where you think about all of the things and you're like, okay, I'm going to run and I'm going to get coffee and I'm going to go do that. And I'm going to go do that. And you're like, God damn, that sounds like a lot of work.
For real.
And instead of like just getting your body up and going to do the thing, like your brain's like, yeah, we don't got the energy for all that. So we're just going to stay right here and we're going to watch our TikToks. And and Mona's like, all the pieces are coming together for me right now.
I'm sorry.
So for me, really establishing routines has been really helpful for me. People with ADHD also struggle with like object permanence. And like if I don't see it in front of me, sometimes I forget it exists. Yep. And so like putting notes on my phone in a place where I can see them when I open it, like I put my notepad on my home screen now instead of you know, where I have to open the notes app, because I'll never open the notes app, but if it's sitting there, I'm like, oh yeah, I got to do that.
Wow.
You know,
okay.
In my office, at my job, keeping a whiteboard where I can like write things and look at them, and they're directly in front of my face and I have to see them.
Got it.
You know, and then kind of just like leaning into those cycles and knowing that like, okay, am I doing this for the right reasons right now? Or like, what is it, you know?
Right.
Wow.
That's amazing.
It's a lot to be, it's a lot to like take in, but the more that I researched about it, I was like,
right.
Like,
wow.
One thing I find amazing about that though, and listen to you explain this and lay this out. One, I believe this is great information for our listeners out there, because there are a lot of people that deal with this and struggle with this, and maybe they haven't been diagnosed with it yet and don't know. As you mentioned, you were diagnosed with this 6 months ago, and all of the pieces of your life started to fall into place. Like, wow, this is why things were the way that they were. So having that awareness now, you're able to take different actions to make things a little bit more easy on you, because I think that the things we struggle with through life are just a lack of information. And when we start to grow that self-awareness of things, it makes life a little bit more easy to navigate. I won't say it makes just everything just like smooth sailing, but it makes things a little bit more easier to navigate, having that awareness. Wow.
And, you know, I grew up a lot of my life thinking that I had like depression and anxiety, and I probably don't. You know, realistically, I probably don't. I was on anxiety meds for the longest, and I kind of, when I brought it up to, it was actually my OB, because I didn't have a primary doctor. But when I brought it up to her after having Penelope, I was like, it just feels like there's 700 tabs open in my brain, and one of them is singing, and I don't know what's going on here, and it just like wanted all to be quiet for a minute. And she was like, okay, so here's some anxiety meds, like you should probably look into that, but like you're probably getting and you know, I know obviously now I was talking to the wrong person at the wrong time about the wrong thing, but I didn't know how to express that. And I would say it like I have all these tabs open, and then it's just this sinking sense of like overwhelm. And I can't like make myself do anything, much less the thing that needs to get done. But I can end up at the mall for 6 hours and have a great time, and I don't know what's going on there.
literally.
Right? And it would be a huge, you know, a huge pressure point in my relationships with my family and in my, you know, romantic relationships, because they're like, what, you have all this energy to go do this, but you can't do the dishes? Like, what do you mean? And I didn't know how to articulate any of that, and I didn't know what any of it was, and I just thought that it was just like something that was wrong with me.
Like you have this thing, you just want to scream and like.
And now that I know how to like work, you know, with myself a little bit, you know, all of the things that I was depressed about, like, have mostly gone away. And like what I thought was depression was really just me and my executive dysfunction, like not knowing how to function in my own environment. And like the things that I would get anxious about, it was the same thing. It was like I didn't know how to manage those symptoms and like work in that space. And so I would get really, really anxious, because I'd be like, dude, we're going to fight about the dishes again tonight, because I just couldn't like, you know, and it was like, and I would get so anxious and I wouldn't know what to do. And it was like, once the like diagnosis was put on it, I was like, dude,
it's like probably just like,
and I, like I said, I was like, you know, it was rough, because I did feel like, you know, what if this would have been figured out 10 years ago? Like, damn, could I have done something with my life by now? But I look at it also like, you know, like, okay, now I'm 24 and I know, right? And I'm on meds that work for me, and I, you know, I know how to
cope and
I know how to cope and get through the crash and whatever. And so, you know, at least I figured it out at 24 and not 34, you know?
And so, okay, let's talk about a little bit about your entrepreneurship vendor and what do you do?
So
talk a little bit about that.
Semi-customizable graphic tee business.
Okay.
I have collections that are shoppable online, and that's really where like my passion is, in those collections and kind of art that I have curated. None of those are originals as of right now, but we're kind of working towards getting to that point. But on the website you can kind of choose, you know, do I want it on a t-shirt, or do I want it on a crew neck, and then kind of pick colors and things along those lines.
Yeah.
That has been that has been interesting for me as an entrepreneur, because it's a lot to organize.
Yes.
And I do everything to order, so keeping turnaround times in check, and all of those kinds of things have been kind of some of my biggest struggles, but I'm really, really passionate about those things. As a sidecar to that, I do have a VIP Facebook group where I do kind of more like maybe more like trending launches. Like right now people are really into like bleach tees or tie-dye tees. Like some of that stuff goes on in the VIP group. 4th of July stuff went in there.
Love it.
Yeah, just because it is a little bit more of like a personalized shopping experience. And it's not something that I maybe always want to be available on the website, whereas my collection pieces kind of are more permanent staples for me.
Yeah, and you connect more too with your VIP group, because I follow it too, and I see you do lives in there and stuff.
I try.
What made you want to start?
That's a really great question. My entrepreneurship journey was weird, honestly. So I this time last year, I was in cosmetology school. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm telling you, we just hang on here. It's going to feel like an ADHD rabbit hole, because
I'm interested in hearing about that.
Yeah. So I was actually in cosmetology school, and I wanted to mostly do makeup. But I went to cosmetology because aesthetics was full, and it was a whole thing. But I mostly wanted to do like skin and makeup was my biggest passion. I started getting into makeup right after I had my son. Worked at Sephora for some time, worked at Ulta, really got into like the artistry piece of it. And it was kind of the first art form that I found where like I could see something in my head and then like make it happen. Yeah. Like my mom really wanted me to get into like drawing and painting growing up. And I was like, I can't freaking draw, Mom. I don't know. So I would like see all this stuff in my head and I'm like, I want to make it, but I couldn't. Yeah. I just didn't have I didn't feel like I had like the talent to do it, and I didn't have the patience to learn it. So
So do you think that's where cosmetology played a part? You felt like that was something that
it was
would
like creative. Yeah. And that kind of hyper focus would kick in, and I would spend hours in the bathroom, and I would just love it. And then it was like therapeutic for me because I could take it all off at the end of the day. And like take really good care of myself, and like that was something that I always struggled with, and so that was a piece that I was able to do. From there, I kind of really enjoyed like making other people feel that, and like making other people kind of like their face light up, and they're like, "Dang, I look good." I'm like, "Yeah, I know you do. Look at what I did."
Like, hey.
Period. Right.
I can relate.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed kind of watching my girls when I would do their makeup and at Sephora or whatever, like kind of have that glow up and be like, "Dang, I look good." Yeah, you do. Right. Find that shine for yourself. Right.
Absolutely, it feels good to help other people feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
I agree.
Hair was not my thing.
Yeah.
It just wasn't.
Was it too boring for you?
It was just too technical.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There was just too many things to remember. And like coloring hair, I'm great at. I love color. Like color theory makes sense to me. That I love every piece of that. Like blonding makes sense to me. All of that. Haircuts, absolutely not. I will never. I hate every piece of it. There's too much attention to detail. My brain hurts at the end of the day.
Hey, I love that, because it's like, you know what I mean? When I've been to some barbers, and maybe they didn't realize that the hair wasn't their thing. And you'll leave out of that,
you're like,
lining all on a diagonal, a isosceles triangle, or whatever you call it. Like, what are you doing, dude? You got me a cute angle on.
Doesn't mean you should.
Right.
And it's like, I can dust my little dead ends off, but that's as far as we're gonna get, okay? So I ended up, just not being very happy with the way that kind of like schooling process went for me.
Yeah.
And I ended up starting over once because I didn't have my hours where they needed to be. Okay. And then
so when did you start over?
So I would have started over I think I started over with the June class or the July class. I don't remember, something along those lines. And I just like found myself just really kind of not interested in it anymore. It was too technical, and it was just, it also was just rooms full of girls, and it was a little catty, and there's a lot of estrogen happening. Yep. And I was just like, I just don't know if this is for me. Yeah. And so originally when I started Love Eden Ashley, which is the name of my brand, I should probably have opened with that. Originally when I started Love Eden Ashley, I kind of was just like, it is me, and whatever it turns into, it's always going to be that, because it is just what I love, you know? And so I started with lashes. That was my very first launch, was a lash launch. We're coming up on our year anniversary. I looked and it was July 28th.
Hey,
so
like
July
in a
28th. So
month.
we're
I remember.
coming.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I have a pair.
Yeah, I remember when that started, and I remember when Mona Lisa brought it to my attention.
Yep.
And I love it. I love to see how far you've come from that
It's
point.
been crazy.
Yeah.
So I did that first lash launch and did relatively well with it. I restocked and did a second lash launch, and to sidecar to that, I bought a Cricut, as everybody did when they were bored in the house last year, you know.
Yep.
And it was kind of just something for me to do, but also, again, it was like, oh wait, I can actually make something. Like I can see it in my head and then make it out loud, you know, and like I kind of got lost like in the sauce with the Cricut for a second. I was like, wait, this is a good time, like this is fun. And I was making anything, and I said, hit me up, I will make you some cups, I will make you some wood signs, I will make you whatever it is that you
under
want,
the moon.
I will make it happen. And actually I really hesitated with shirts for the longest. I was
Okay.
like, they scare me. I was like, I'm gonna F that up, like there's no way that I'm gonna do that well, you know. And then I launched my Zodiac collection, which I want to say was at the end of August last year.
Yep, I remember that.
And it was a relatively basic design, but I did it all in vinyl, which I could never do again.
You got it. The little
There was
ass pieces.
so many tiny little pieces to weed out.
I feel your
so
pain.
it was every Zodiac sign, but around every single star was like a wildflower. So it was every single leaf of the little flowers, and I was in there. I was weeding all day long, my little wrist. And then at that point I didn't have a press, and I was literally doing them with my iron, like on my, in my living room, right?
Like putting extra elbow grease in there.
Yeah, we was putting work in, okay? And I did relatively well that launch too, and it kind of was just like, okay, maybe we got something going here.
Can I explain to the people? So
sorry.
for those of you all who don't know, so vinyl, this is like a heat transfer type of paper that you cut it out in the Cricut, which is like a cutting machine that cuts the design out. And the weeding part is when you take like the vinyl,
take the extras
and you
out.
take the extra stuff out and like peel around it and stuff and all of that. And
It's like a little ice
press.
pick.
That can be very time
very
consuming.
tedious.
It gets boring. Like I'm like
Yes.
after one, I'm like, I'm done.
And then if you miss like little pieces and it's still stuck on the transfer
Then
paper,
you're screwed.
You're
Yep,
screwed.
it gets-
your whole shirt's screwed up.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think I sold that whole launch. I think I sold between like 20 and 30 units on that one.
Good.
Great. Not fun on the weeding side of things.
I bet that took you days.
I was
in
my
and out.
boyfriend's. I was in my boyfriend's apartment, and we was just weeding all day long.
on top of the iron though, I mean,
And then
like,
the iron on top of it, because you got to put pressure on
Yup.
it to
Yeah,
make
like-
it stay.
forearm strength is like on point.
Yeah.
You ready to
Just-
arm wrestle? You should have
Just
entered like
this
a arm wrestling competition.
For real.
Ready, arm super swole, got veins popping out.
Literally. Yep. So we did that, and that went pretty well. And then I launched a couple more designs around, like, Halloween. I'm trying not to get too lost here, Tyler.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking about the arm wrestling competition.
Just me and my iron warming up first. We're ready to go.
Just crushing
That's
people.
so funny.
Oh man.
Oh, Tyler. So for my birthday last year, which is in October, Libra gang, I asked
Wait,
for...
you a Libra too?
Hell yeah.
That's why you
3rd.
said that.
That's what I'm
earlier.
saying.
Yeah, gang.
I got it. Yeah, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Every time. But I'm a Cancer moon, so I got both of you. I got both of you in my chart right
It's
here.
like whatever. I'm just
She over here, like,
over here.
finally,
She's in her feelings, her Cancer self.
I know, right? I'm left out for one. Because she be like, when she meet another Cancer, oh, I'm a Cancer.
Oh,
and I'm always over there. So finally, I have someone,
Right.
you know.
Period.
And
We
she
got
like,
you.
yeah,
You got my color on too. You here for the branding?
yeah.
I'm into it.
The
The millennial pink.
yeah,
Yep.
the beanie, yeah.
dope.
So for my birthday, I asked for a heat press, and my grandma bought me a heat press, and it was just cheap, but it opened a whole new door for me.
Yeah.
And I discovered the world of screen print transfers, and boy, my life changed because there was no more weeding in my eyes. I
Perfect.
said,
Yeah.
hallelujah.
Yeah.
Zen.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
screen print transfers, you know, and I'm probably giving away my whole gold mine here, but that's fine because we on the re-up here.
Yeah,
so
we giving game, you know.
it's fine, you know. So basically, I would buy them from vendors, and they were pre-designed, they were pre-printed, they were ready to go, right? So I could buy in low quantities, and that allowed me to make my brand as customizable as it was.
Yeah.
So everything, all of the orders would come in to me. I would order the transfer and order the shirt, and then it would be good to go. Sometimes I would order transfers ahead of time, whatever. My biggest thing was I did not want to sit on debt for my business because first of all, I made some mistakes when I was a little girl, and mama's credit is not that great. You know, it's easy to do.
Yep.
But also, like, I just, you know, I was a single mom, you know, I was not in a place where I could just afford to risk it all, you know? At this point, I had quit school and was just serving part-time. I was serving at Texas Roadhouse, and then my dad opened a restaurant in September last year.
I seen that. How is that going?
That's
Just
fire.
real quick.
So good.
We need to check it out.
Amazing.
I think it's downtown, isn't it?
Yeah, it's downtown, 5th and Phillips. Chef Lance is on Phillips. It's right across from the Levitt Band Show.
Let's do it.
Go. Let's go.
You'll see some of my wood art pieces up on the wall in there.
Oh, nice. I love that.
And then, yeah, he's got some shirts for sale up there, too, because they always be supporting.
Yep,
I
supporting.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to double back to the part where you mentioned, I love that grind that comes from a person that is starting a business from the ground up, funding it themselves, and like not using any excuses to get the business started. You know what I mean? I know people out there that started a business with $200 and they're doing really well.
Yeah.
The other point I want to get to is the debt. I've made similar mistakes in my young years, and I think that's I can say that's a problem within the school system in this country. Like, why don't we have a class based around financial literacy?
Yeah.
And a lot of those things coming into adulthood I didn't know about, and I had to learn the hard way.
You know,
I will say in terms of business, once you get over that hurdle of learning those things and cleaning up, you know, your debt and getting in a good financial position,
we're still
a
working
good
on it.
key for people out there is, you know, I think the number one thing is a cash flow problem. You know, we need to be making more money than we're accumulating debt. That's one thing. The other thing is utilizing debt to
Your advantage.
propel your advantage and to propel your business. Like there's a such thing as bad debt and good debt.
Yep.
Right.
You know, I think that starting a business is a good example of good debt because a business it can be if the business is successful because it's supposed to generate
It's a risk.
cash
to
flow.
do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
it
was
and that's how the like super rich people get away with paying taxes.
Right.
Yep.
Well, and for
Good
me,
debt.
you know, for me it was you know, I left school and my mom and my grandma were kind of like, okay, what are you going to do now? Like, you got to do something. Like, we were kind of helping you get through school, but like, what's the next move, you know? And I was like, well, I don't really know. Like, this cricket thing, like, it's doing okay for me right now. And so, like, serving part-time, like, we're just going to see what happens, you know? And the holidays happened.
Is that a lot of work?
So the holidays were really, really great for me.
bet.
I made some mistakes,
Yeah.
some big mistakes.
Yeah.
As far as like, I, you know, didn't really know the value of my product and what it was that I was offering to the world. You know, and I got some crazy support that I, you know, wasn't necessarily ready for. And I didn't, you know, I figured like holiday is cool and all, but like I didn't really walk into it prepared.
Yeah.
Well, then with it being COVID, we all know how shipping went last year.
Yep.
Well, because I was ordering everything to order, I had vendors that would take 10 full business days to even process my order and then wait for it to get lost in the mail, you know? And then I had shirt orders that got lost in the mail, and it was like, because I don't sit on debt in my business, like that cash flow that came in from the sales, you know, was already gone because I ordered the product with it, but I couldn't turn around and double up on that to fix it, you know? And I was driving out in a snowstorm on the 23rd and 24th trying to get people their Christmas shirts on time.
Wow.
You know, I was paying to overnight stuff to get people, you know, their stuff. And most of it ended up working out. And I had to, you know, throw a few refunds around. But I was just like,
You're like,
it was the longest 6 weeks of my life.
Yeah.
I feel that pain.
You know,
It was
and
a
it was
lot.
like, and I just was like, there was so many moments where I was like, I'm so in over my head. What do I think I'm doing? Like, who do I think I am? You know, like I am just
You were confident though.
we got there.
Yes.
We got there. And getting through it and coming out on the other side and then having a really successful relaunch in January, I was like,
you're like,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the best feeling. Like when you have things like really difficult going on, and you feel like, dang, how the heck am I gonna get through this? What am I doing? And you come through it, and then boom, win, boom, win. That's the best part about winning, is getting through that adversity and overcoming those hurdles, because they're there for a reason. They're not there to crush you. They're there so you can learn.
Right. Yeah. And now it's June, and I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna start prepping for my holiday launches now, so that I don't, you know, so I'm gonna have it all ready to ship, because I'm not doing that again, and it was horrible, and I like have like this like PTSD, but I know because of that, I'm like, we gonna have a banging holiday season this year.
She got a little,
I was
little
like,
mild PTSD from
man, I was literally,
I feel that.
During that when everything was out of my control, and I was just like,
what were people's responses to you doing that?
So, people, I have to take this. People who were like,
you getting undressed after,
I'm hot, guys.
She about to take the tank top off next.
I will. I'm not just kidding.
People be
people gonna see the thumbnail. It's just gonna be Mona naked sitting in the chair, like, what type of
just little smiley faces,
what
like
is
on Wild Style.
My little pasties now. Anyway, back to you.
Anyways, so you know, my friends and family that supported, you know, they were relatively understanding, you know, just explain it to them. I had gotten an influx of orders from like Facebook mom group, and they were maybe not so kind about things. But you know, it ended up being okay, and some of those people have stayed and some of them didn't come back, and that's you know, that's okay.
Learning lessons.
It's fair, you know, and maybe they'll be back for holiday this year. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they were in it for the deals. I was giving stuff away at holiday last year.
Yeah.
Doing that again.
Like, nope.
But you know, it was the response was relatively pretty good, you know, and I had some hard moments with some customers that, you know, some people don't want a solution.
Yeah.
They just want to be mad.
Yeah.
You know, and they
just
don't care what you have to say because everything that you say will be wrong.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard for me as somebody, okay, so another fun ADHD thing is that people with ADHD also very frequently deal with rejection sensitivity dysphoria.
I do that every day.
And things like,
this is interesting.
yeah, go for it. I don't care. I'm not recording anything.
You just pointed at me like that.
Yeah, no.
Sorry.
No, so like little things,
I'm messing with you.
little things be like, you know, so Tyler will send you a text. You'll be like, hey, sorry, I snapped at you this morning. Tyler will be like, it's fine. And you'll be like, you hate me.
Yes!
You hate me. Where like this is it. This is where he leaves me. You're like this, and it just sends you into this spiral. And that is, I don't really know the science, the chemical science behind that one.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Hydrate.
I just know that it is.
You're getting hot over there.
Definitely a thing. Yes. And so for me, it's really hard when I'm dealing with that with customers because I'm just one-on-one with them, and they see me as like, I am the face of my own brand. I don't hide behind a customer service email. Like it's, you know, they know that they're talking to me.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I can't BS them.
Yeah.
you know, and if I do, they're going to call me on it because they're going to be like, you just told me something else 2 days ago. And it's just like, but those conversations, I would be like, oh my God, this girl hates me. And like part of me would almost like want to like put my defense up and be like, you're not going to talk to me about my business like that. Like, do you want to clock in? You know,
but you just can't.
And you just can't.
Yeah.
And I probably made some mistakes, and I probably went this much too far with people a time or two. And I'm willing to own up to that. You know, there's nobody here to, tell me what the right thing to say is.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't have automated emails that say, we'll get back to you in 2 to 3 business days. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's me sending an email at 10 o'clock at night, and then at 10:05 they respond, and then at noon the next day they're like, so you're just ignoring me now?
You're like,
I'm sorry, but like I'm trying to get your order out. What do you mean? You know?
Yes.
And so it's been a lot of lessons to learn.
Yes.
A lot of hard lessons to learn, and kind of feeling like I'm on this journey alone a little bit. And I know like I have you to lean on, and I have some other people in my circle now. But when I was first starting, I was like, I didn't even really fully take it seriously for myself. Yeah. And then it happened, and I was like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing now. And I haven't worked a full-time job since beauty school. We're getting to that point this month, but
hey, that deserves a
I'm focused, man.
Yeah. Getting that work done. You know what I mean?
You know, and sometimes it's really hard. And some months I'm like, I don't know how we're going to do it anymore. But
God blesses you. And you actually. It
comes through every time.
It does. It does every single time.
And
so, no, I just want to say this real quick. That's why I wanted to get you on this podcast, is because like seeing your growth from a year ago to now is just so amazing.
I don't even know that girl anymore.
It's like, I just remember like messages that you would send me, and then watching that like grow over time, watching you do things that you were scared of, you know, like are you cool if I'm like the lives and stuff? Like, remember, I do
horrible.
not.
I hate lives.
No, and watching you on live, you are such a natural, and you're so vulnerable with it. And I'm just like,
love
good
it.
job. Yeah. Like, I love that for you.
I definitely, especially within the last few months, have come to a place where I'm not going to say not afraid, because everybody's a little afraid, but like just so unapologetically myself.
Love it.
And even when you're fearful.
Even when I'm fearful.
It's an everyday choice.
Yeah, I'm sorry. All right, I had to drop another one on them. That's like a good one right there.
Yeah, and it's so, you know, it's
the self-love, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I know. It's scary.
She's doing amazing.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's been
almost scared your tank top off over there.
God.
I almost came here in a crop top, and then I was like, you know, I'm
Why didn't
I'm
you?
gonna be sitting because blooming isn't perfect.
Okay. Did you do this? Because this is a beautiful t-shirt.
Yo.
You did that?
Yeah.
Can I feel it?
Yeah.
Oh,
I love it.
I like it.
All right, one thing.
Let me just.
One thing I'm good. So.
Yeah. Sorry, we've gone a lot of places.
I think the biggest thing I've taken from this podcast today is a few minutes ago when you just said there were some mistakes I made, and I'm willing to own up to it. And you owned up to the mistakes you made right here on record. And I love that, because as humans, we get so, you know, prideful sometimes.
Yeah, it's hard to knock that ego
you know,
down.
We want to be right all the time. You know, we don't want to look wrong. And I think that's taking back your power in realizing mistakes you made and owning up to them and apologizing for them. You take your power back that way. Yeah. You know, that's a way of, you know, loving yourself more.
Yes.
Like, I'm going to own up to this. This thing isn't going to stop me. Yeah. I know I made a mistake. And we're going to keep crushing it and moving forward.
And on top of that, apologizing to myself for it.
Yeah.
Yes, giving yourself grace.
Giving yourself grace. It's been a huge thing for me, you know. It's, you know, as a single mom, like, you know, it's sometimes I'm like, did I do enough for my kids today? Like, or was I just locked into my phone trying to run business? And like, just knowing that we do the best we can with the resources that we have. And now I'm learning that I can give myself better resources.
Yes.
You know, and kind of lean into different pieces of my power and lean into different aspects of my personality that maybe I was a little bit afraid of before.
Yeah.
And, you know, I still probably make mistakes every single day in my business.
Yes.
And you know what? I'm going to lose customers. Yeah. I'm going to lose customers, and I'm going to get a bad review. And like, I can't let that be the reason that I stop.
Yes.
You know, and if 20 years from now I look back on my life and I say, damn, you stopped because of one bad review? Like, that's fucking pathetic. Like, what are you doing? You know, and so that's kind of how I think about my life now. I'm like, you know, if I tell this story to my kids someday, or I tell this story to my grandkids someday, you know, I'm going to give it everything I got, because like, I'm trying to make something of myself for my kids, you know. And
I love that.
You know, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, and that is what it is.
Move on with life. Yeah.
Right. But I'm gonna give it everything I got until I ain't got nothing else to give.
Exactly.
You know? And if I fall, you know, we kind of had a conversation about this the other day, but like, if I fall out of love with what I'm doing, I'm gonna just readjust and keep going, because you know, I've identified pieces of my business that aren't working for me currently. You know, and that have made me feel like I'm losing, you know, a creative battle in my business.
Yes.
You know, but instead of just being defeated by that, you know, or saying like, these people are only my customers because I offered them X, Y, and Z. That may be true for some of my customers, but I also know that I have customers that have spent $500, $700, $900 in my business.
Yeah.
Like, I have one customer who has paid a month of my rent.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And like, those people will find something.
Yes.
You know,
exactly.
even if they're just sharing your post, or even if they're just, you know, whatever it
telling
is.
a friend, talking about it.
Right.
Yes.
Those people will be like, damn, like she's got something. And just, you know, like you guys talked about last week, you know, it's hard when it's not your family and friends that you think that it's going to be. You know, it's really hard. And like swallowing that, I'm like,
Yep.
like,
and you can't have resentment towards it
And you
because
can't.
you just can't.
But you know what?
It's going to
like,
hold you back.
You got to just do it anyways. And you find new people and you're like, damn, I don't even know you. And you're like my best customer. And now we're besties, you know? And I found people that are in my circle now that wouldn't have been without this.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like I include you in that. Like, you know, maybe we would have found each other, but I originally reached out to you because like you held the energy that I wanted to aspire to.
Yeah.
And I thought so long, like I kind of had this conversation with her the other day, but to fill you in, I was like, God, I want to be Mona so bad, you know? I was like, that could be me. And instead of that could be me saying, why not me too?
She
you know?
did it
Love
herself.
it.
And
And
that's
why
what I
can't we
love
sit at
about
the
it.
same table? And now here we are at the same
At the
table.
same
A year
table.
later.
On the People Being People podcast, dropping gems on them. And I'm glad you went in that direction because throughout this podcast today, one common thing that will continue to come to my head is just through these struggles we experience in business and entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
An awesome thing we can do for ourselves is having an accountability partner. And I hear some of the conversations you guys have amongst each other. And that's awesome. You know, you got to put yourself around people that are wanting to win and willing to win. And
that are like-minded or even better than you because then you gain wisdom from them.
absolutely. Yeah, you man, I just love this.
I really enjoyed this podcast.
Yeah, I really enjoyed
so
this.
much. But before we go, I want to ask you, what's in the future for you? What holds?
So I'm working on kind of reshaping my business a little bit. And I thought about doing a full rebrand, but we're keeping it Levied and Ashley because that's who we are. That's who we are. That's what we do. So I'm working on some new collections. I'm hoping that today we're dropping one of them when this is airing. If not, I will definitely at least have a launch date and some details as of when this goes up. But working on some really exciting pieces, moving more towards some custom art and more contemporary than kind of some of the things that I've done before.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Keep going. Keep being you. Keep inspiring people and just being you.
Just be you.
Love myself and
Yes.
make everybody else love themselves too.
Yes.
That's how it goes.
That's all it is.
Love yourself this Monday morning.
Yes.
This is People Being People with Mona and Tyler and Mona. Thank you for joining us today,
you.
Eden.
Thank you.
This
for
was
having
great.
me.
And I know the listeners out there, I know
They're
you
gonna
took
enjoy
something
this.
from you
Yeah.
took
They're really
something
gonna
from
enjoy
this.
this one.
Very heartfelt. Love it.
Yes.
Let's go make this week great, everyone. People being people. You know, self-love isn't an easy journey.
Especially when you came from a really broken place inside of you.
It's an everyday choice.